Oh, I went live a little early. I didn't even plug in my microphone yet. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Today's Weather Tonight. I'm going to say that again once I get this plugged in. I was just so excited to get on the stream that I forgot to do all of my little rituals. I think I've done all the rest of them, though. All the rest of my important little rituals. I put on my little headphones. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Today's Weather Tonight. Here, as always, I'm Cloud Hudson, your meteorologist for the evening, your comedian / meteorologist, that is. And today we will be recapping all the weather that's wreaked havoc upon the planet today. I don't mean to sound so joyful when I'm talking about havoc, but amok. The waves are running amok all over the planet. And just as I was hoping and praying and expecting for this weekend, I was thinking, this is it. This is exactly, we're on schedule. We're actually ahead of my schedule. I was like, at least by the new moon, we're going to see something. And it's before the new moon and we're seeing stuff. Okay. Let's go ahead and share my screen because I want to jump in right ahead at the earthquakes at volcanoes map. This is a new map I found on volcanodiscovery.com, new to me. And if you are not already supporting this channel, please also be sure to support. I would love to support all of the websites that I'm showcasing here. Unfortunately, I don't really have the sustainable means right now to do so. So if you would like to donate to any of these places, I know that they are getting increased traffic from people being very curious about these happenings. So it would be nice if we could donate to their upkeep of their servers. Anyway, okay. Let's plow on through. So we've had 26 earthquakes over here near Clear Lake Volcano. Saw only about 19 over in Kilauea today. But that is still in an not active, but an elevated risk stage of eruption right now. Only 2 earthquakes here near Sabancaya volcano, which, as we know, is actively erupting. And then a couple here in, I believe, in the Apaneca range and Turrialba range. Then over here in Iceland, we'll get into the Iceland earthquake map here in a second. But we saw one at Vesuvius and one at Etna as well. And then 2 not actively erupting volcanoes saw close earthquakes today over here in Indonesia and the Philippines. And then we saw 4 over here just on the North Island of New Zealand. So let's take a look at what that means for all of these. These are all the places that all the volcanoes we saw earthquakes near. Reykjanes, we saw 33 quakes. That is indicative of the and then let's put that together with the other quakes in Iceland: Kjørsvik, Katla, and Fagradalsfjall. Fagradalsfjall. I'm still getting better at saying this. See, it's not just the names that, it's literally everything. Okay. And even in the Tjornes fracture zone, these are all Icelandic areas. So Clear Lake volcano, possible swarm because they are looking at 22 earthquakes in so many hours in Sonoma County, California. Eastern Alaska, they're finally, I'm finally putting together what they're talking about on what's happening, what they're talking about. I'm personifying the earthquakes. I'm saying what the earthquakes are talking about. I'm finally putting together what the earthquakes are trying to say in Alaska, and it's that some things are waking up a little bit, but not to the point that we'd be looking at them like we're looking at Kilauea and Iceland right now. Canary Islands have seen a little bit of activity. Eldi Island in Iceland, Fagradalsfjall volcano in Reykjanes. This is the one that's really close to where the eruption happened today. The 182 earthquakes between in the range that they're detecting between 0.01 and you know, there's been quite a few happening here that are all in a significant depth and magnitude to be contributing to this. Now, then we only saw 5 earthquakes near Kilauea this today in the past 24 hours, so that's pretty interesting. Not looking at, and a lot of these, Reykjanes volcano isn't necessarily where we're having the eruption. It's actually farther from the eruption than Fagradalsfjall. So that's, I keep saying Fagradalsfjall. Fagradalsfjall is what I mean. Only one near Sabancaya, but still, Sabancaya is an active eruption phase. So let's take a look at who's in active eruption right now. Nevado del Ruiz is still in active eruption. Fuego, all up and down, all in the Ring of Fire. We're getting a lot of eruptive activity. They've got Reykjanes and Stromboli, all as marked as actively erupting. So yeah, let's just go ahead and take a look at what we've got going on in the Reykjanes Peninsula of Iceland. So here is the current hazard map that's in effect. Now, again, we're back to color grading theory, and why, oh why, would they jump straight from a considerable risk to the very high risk with no intermediate zones? Again, why is Grindavik the only place where there's a zone 4 high risk, even though we've got considerable risk right next to these two? And people might try to explain that as this is downhill from this, but as we see, the lava is not flowing directly downhill. The lava is actually flown into zones 1, 5, and 6. Now, zones 2 and 3 are the only ones in a purple warning stage, but why? Riddle me this. If it isn't to allow workers to still be in the power plant and still be maintaining the Blue Lagoon, why would they not have these in higher risk categories? I don't understand why Grindavik, which is so far away from the current eruptive field, is in a higher danger throat. Like, I mean, I know that they are more at risk of crack collapse and sinkholes, but why would that matter for... Why would that matter more than what zones 1, 5, and 6 are going through when they have active lava flow into their area? Now, it also could be that there is the gas pollution is more of a risk in Grindavik than in these other areas, because they don't have the bolded threats they're being assessed as more threatening. You really don't want to be downwind of it. And right now, I guess Grindavik is downwind of the volcanic ash and everything, because you see this pink line, that's the new fissure. And you can see how this is just along that northwestern boundary of the December 21st lava zone. So really, really interesting choices being made there. So I want to just run through the timeline real quick. So yesterday before the eruption, we were all just sitting here waiting with bated breath about, the balloon of the ground looks like it's inflated as much as possible. And we were just like, when's it gonna crack? When's it gonna? And last night, apparently, so last night, at around 5:30 UTC, so like 5:30 a.m. Iceland's time, there was an earthquake swarm that began. And I'll go to the earthquake data here. Let's go to. I'm gonna open this. Yeah. Okay. So around 5:30 last night, you can see just before the 6 a.m. mark, which I don't know if y'all are remembering correctly, but that was also the same time as last month's, same time of day, just before dawn. And this is just before the new moon. We'll get into that later. But you see as we saw, there were densely packed earthquakes all along Wednesday, and then we saw a little bit of a quiet echo Wednesday into the beginning of Thursday, and then bam, Thursday we immediately go into an earthquake swarm that shortly triggers the eruption. Now you can see most of them are in the 12 to 24 hours color range apart, meaning that they were clustered around this eruption time. Oh my God. When I say what I'm about to say, I won't say it. Anyway, there was a really distinct chunk of time that we had this eruptive activity going on, and then after all of the earthquakes happened, they finally shook up the bottle enough for it to explode, and we exploded once we got a bit of that explosion. Like once the magma reached the surface to become lava, and it jetted out for about 3 kilometers, a 3-kilometer long jet fissure eruption. Then we saw the earthquakes taper off just a little bit, and around noon in Iceland's time, we saw a little dip. We then saw a few spikes back up into the over 2 range, but that's about the time of day in the 1400 UTC. That is about the time of day that we saw the lava flow. And here's a picture of the lava flow from overnight hours. This is a gorgeous image of it where you get the infrared. That color is not just red, it's heat. It's the closest thing that we can see to heat. I mean, red is the color that we can see closest to heat. It's not just like a psychological thing. Anyway, you can also see the power plant in the background because this is looking like slightly northwest. This is from the south side of the eruptive fissure. This is looking up at, pointing at that area. Let's see. So speaking of how close this was to the power plant, you can see here, this is the power plant and Blue Lagoon complex. And this is the lava flow that they estimated as of noon 30 on February 8th, 12:30 p.m. UTC. The dark purple is the old existing December lava flow, and the light purple is the new lava flow that's kind of overtaken it. You can see it kind of has wrapped all the way around Skogafell, and then slipped down into this valley and crept across the roadway, across the main roadway. And then right here is unfortunately the biggest threat to come out of this eruption is this area right here. This thing is the hot water lines and power lines for the entire. This is the one that goes straight off to Keflavik. Keflavik being like the next largest town in the peninsula to like the second in population size to Reykjavik, which is the capital of Iceland. So this is the pipeline. Remember, this is a geothermal power plant where they use the underground heating in order to heat the water, and that is used both as an energy source and a raw hot water source for all the houses. So when this lava flow came in and actually covered over that's a crappy when this lava flow came in and reached this pipeline of hot water coming from the power plant, that is when we got in some trouble, because after a while of that hot magma or hot lava flowing over top of what I'm trying to say is the pipe ruptured. The hot water pipe that provides power and hot water to Keflavik has ruptured, and right around the time it was happening, people who live in Keflavik were told, don't take any more showers or baths or use your hot water, and try to turn your heating down as far as possible, because they use that thermal heating. They use the hot water for their heating their homes as well as a hot water source. So when the hot water line was breached, that's when we got all this crazy steam coming off of the area. And heating water like that can cause explosions. So that's exactly what we saw. Oops, let me go back to cursor mode. Okay. And that's what we saw here about midday. About 1 or 2 p.m., we saw the lava had, around noon, the lava had, by 12:30 noon, the lava had traveled over the ground area where the pipeline lay underneath. And then it took about an hour and a half to 2 hours for that heat to conduct its way down to the pipeline to actually rupture it. Now, that's hot water. Like, it takes a lot more heat than the hot water to rupture the pipe. So this is like lava amounts of heat that had to go down. And you think like, oh, heat doesn't travel downwards. Well, in a convective system, heat isn't necessarily transferred downwards, but in a conductive heat exchange scenario, that's when you can get like a hot thing pressing down from the top. That's gonna really heat up the pipe. If you imagine having a hot coal barely touching under your hand versus a hot coal touching on top of your hand. The hot coal on top of your hand is technically pressing its own weight times the heat it's giving you. So it's giving you heat plus pressure of gravity. If you are just holding your hand, making the same amount of surface contact with a coal, it won't necessarily give you the same burn as if you're holding a heavy piece of something. It depends on how much pressure you're applying to the hot surface. That determines the way that you're the amount of pressure that a heat source is applied to the cold sink is directly proportional to how efficiently that heat is going to get transferred into the sink. What I'm saying is, touch it a little bit, not that hot. Press down on hot, very hot. I'm over here to try to dumb down the science, not so that everyone thinks that they can do it, but everybody realizes that they already have been doing science by observing the universe their whole lives. And really cool science is happening in front of our eyes. So let's go again. What I was all saying that for is having the heavy hot lava sit on top of the ground where there's this underground pipeline of water means that eventually that heat is going to sink and press its way down into the earth to get it'll radiate through the earth to get to the pipe. The pipe bursts, and then that's where we get these really clear, puffy white clouds of steam coming off. So the clear white steam is that came from just one rupture point is where we're looking at the clean geothermal power plant line of hot water getting breached by the lava. And then that's not all, because not only did we get steam erupting from the hot water line, but we also got a second type of lava and water interaction where some people have it. This is all speculation at this point. We haven't done the studies to there. We're still in real time. This is still actively erupting. So we still don't have the time to be able to go in and see what happened. But people are speculating that the secondary large plume of black smoke that happened to the north of the pipeline eruption was from the lava heating up a groundwater aquifer, hitting a patch of underground water, and that erupting in a more a less controlled manner than the pipeline did. A pipeline full of clean water, it'll heat that water way before it wants to heat all the rock and pipe around it. It wants to burn off all of that water because it's more conductive and it's more conductive of heat. It'll burn off that clean, pure water first. Now, when lava gets interacting with regular groundwater that is all mixed into the pore spaces in the soil, that's when little explosions happen. And not only are we erupting from, instead of erupting from a big pipe at one point where there's a really clear direction for the pressure gradient to flow, when the heat gets into that water table, there's all those teensy tiny little pore spaces for the water to be in, for little tiny explosions to happen underground. And that's why we started to see, people are speculating, this is why we started to see this really dark, thick cloud of black smoke all of a sudden. That was kind of not, it was near some volcanic spouts. It was near some lava shoots, but it was not like the same type of smoke that you see coming from the actively erupting fissure points. And it was a different type of steam than you see coming from just pure water. So people are suspecting that there was both combustion of the ground material, the soil matter in the area, and quick evaporation and recondensation of the moisture into the area. So that's when it looks more like that scary volcanic pyroclastic flow, when there's the actual ground is erupting, or when the actual soil itself is exploding because it's gotten so hot. The water inside of it has gotten so hot that it explodes. That's what causes that really nasty looking black plume of smoke. So there's also tephra falling. There's some pretty strong winds going on right now. I mean, strong enough to blow the tephra, and they're pretty decently consistent in the north, coming from the northeast direction. So fortunately, they're blowing offshore and not into any of these larger towns, but it is resulting in a lot of tephra being launched into the sky. And that's what you can see in this picture. It's that volcanic glass, that obsidian substance. I mean, obsidian is a type of igneous rock. creation, but tephra is something different. But it's if you can't picture many rocks, but you know what I'm talking about with obsidian, picture obsidian, but like it's not in its condensed glass like state. It's in more of a foamy, think of like expansion puff insulation, like the cooling happens as it's coming out and erupting into a like less high pressure situation. So it's expanding in its physical structure at the same time that it's hardening. And it's as sharp and pointy as glass. So this is like glass foam raining down from the sky, which is why they tell you tephra is sharp as glass and should not be removed from vehicles with the windshield wipers. That's an awkward claim to have to explain to Safelite. Yeah, what'd you do to your windshield? Oh yeah, I don't know. There's just a volcano, and I thought it was dust, and it turns out it was a billion tiny pieces of glass that I just smeared into my windshield. Whoopsie poopsie. I guess that's something you have to know if you live around volcanoes. You gotta know, hey, you can't just wipe that off. You have to either blow it off with I don't know, like a leaf blower or something, or wash it off with water. Now let's go ahead and take a look at, this is still actively ongoing. It does look like it's slowed down a bit recently, but again, the whole country, the whole rift zone, intercontinental divide zone has seen earthquakes all day, and looking really like it's going all the way through all of our major volcanic zones. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more areas waking up. Let's see, I want to look at the North Atlantic. Okay, doesn't show too far off the coast, but let's look at the Reykjanes Ridge. Right, okay. So you see that these are not isolated to being earthquakes on the peninsula. There are also earthquakes happening out here along the ridge. This is a plate boundary. And let's go ahead and look at what I've got our plate boundaries pulled up as. Let's go ahead and switch just to the... now, remember, this doesn't map all sources on here, so that's unfortunate that I can't see Iceland with everything. But let's take a look here at... yeah. So these are the earthquakes we were seeing around in Alaska. That was from yesterday. Got one in Washington. That was yesterday as well. A 3 at 4 kilometers depth. I think that was the one I said you'd probably be able to feel. That was also yesterday. Let's go to... seeing a lot from yesterday, not seeing a lot from the 8th. Let's see. 1 La Tirana. That was the one that's near a volcano that's not active in active eruption. Just on here in Kyrgyzstan. Really, it looks like a lot of our Earth energy has been funneled into active eruption. So that's pretty good news for everyone else. Not a whole lot. We like a few in near Jakarta and in the Philippines, here in Indonesia, the Solomon Islands. These are all from yesterday. So I'm seeing like almost none new on 2/8, which is kind of remarkable. Lack of earthquakes today. What is this? Yeah, that's yesterday. These are all yesterday. Yeah, I'm hardly seeing any in the entire country on the 8th, other than what is counting as tremors. So either there is some interesting data that needs to get verified by hand and they're holding out, batching out the new data, or it's quiet. you know? Let's go ahead but it's not quiet on the weather front. Let me just tell you that. Let's take a look at the tail end of our atmospheric river event for California. And we see those heavy rainfall totals extending all the way up into Montana and North Dakota. Seeing not quite as much rain through the east as we will as for our tomorrow, as this sweeps through the country. Let's see, do they even have a February 9th? No, that's not, because it's today. So February 8th, pretty high snowfall events. I think this is Mount Tahoe. No, I don't know which mountain this is at the southern tip of the Salt Lake. But here in the California Sierras, the upper elevations getting a lot more snowpack, which is good because they had just opened a few floodgates in order to let some of the dams let off a little bit of their head, because they're expecting some of that snowpack to melt in the spring, and they want to have areas in the reservoir for that snowpack to melt into. So it is good that we're continuing to see snowfall totals in the upper elevations, while we are also seeing lower elevations get absolutely gully washered out. Let's take a look at our upper level jet analysis. This is the jet right here. And then this would be the jet stream, going from west of Mexico across into diverging into the eastern seaboard, getting a bit of troughing up here, which is really good for that'll be good for if we want to try to develop this area of energy and moisture into potentially another snowstorm. But, again, I'm not forecasting. I am just analyzing. And I'm analyzing somebody else's analysis. So let's just go ahead and look at their surface analysis. Thank you very much, an analyst Dolan from the WPC. We appreciate you putting this together. It's very important that we all get to look at trained meteorologists' analysis. So we see here the cold front coming in, warm front up here. This cold front going pretty in line with where we saw the trough back here. Bringing that in. We've got, this atmospheric river event is turning into several stationary and occluded, like an occluded complex right here. Here's the stationary, and let's see, this jet, this upper level jet across the more southern latitudes should be funneling some of that Pacific moisture from California into the area of the United States that's used to getting this fire hose of weather. And you can see how this is kind of like a giant comma shape, and this is a very extended tail. You can kind of see it. We're also looking at a little low forming here off the Gulf, like just onshore in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, that could make its way up into the country to give us a little bit more action on the East Coast, since we've been having some pretty nice weather. Let's go ahead to, do we have hazard maps on here? Thought we did. Thought I had hazard maps. That was on the last page. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to do that. Okay, that's what I wanted. Let's go to current watches and warnings. God, NOAA's always just the most boring meteorological website out there, honestly. I'm sorry. I don't care. You guys need to get a better graphics design department. But that would require us to fund science in America, and that's never going to happen. You know what I mean? Anyway, can't have people liberating themselves. That would suck for people who want to make money off of you. It would suck if everyone knew science, then you wouldn't be able to scare people. Okay, so we got gale warnings off the coast of Florida and California and all of the coast of Alaska. Makes a lot of sense because we're seeing a lot of jet activity there. Winter storm warning here in the Four Corners region. Big winter storm here in Utah and Colorado. A lot of winter storm reaching down through the upper elevations of Arizona into New Mexico. We're seeing some really high wind advisories, special marine warning here in the Great Lakes area. We're seeing special marine warning, special weather statement, hazardous outlooks. I think they're seeing some really fast winds, some really fast meridional winds here in Lake Michigan. I'm sorry. I'm from the South. I didn't have to learn which lakes are which. Yeah, it is Lake Michigan. Okay, I'm sorry. Everyone from Chicago is shouting at me right now. Yeah, right across Lake Michigan. The winds are going like south to north here, so I could understand how this might have some lake effect snow or something. Really interesting. Really interesting. Let's see what's going on in Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. They've got some high surf advisory, rip current advisory, hazardous weather to outlook. It's not even that bad. They've got some storms going on there. Let's take a look at our global weather, though. I want to take a look at probably no Earth, because I would like to look at our global wind streams along with our yeah. Oh man, look at how this mid-latitude waveform is shaping up in a gorgeous fashion. Can't you see the crashing waves like you're at a beach? This being the ginormous wave that we're all under. We're all a part of these waves together. Oh man, this is the ocean that people don't want you to know about. They don't want you to know that there's just an ocean that we're all swimming around in, and it's called air. And oh man. You might be too hopeful about life and see it as a gorgeous, beautiful place to be and such a blessing to be on Earth if you knew how awesome it was. Look how perfectly this lines up with India's border too. That's just really goes to show you there is sometimes some cohesion between where we see those plate boundaries and when we see massive, larger scale, mesoscale weather activities. Up in the 700 level, that's just right along. This is where we're expecting clouds to form, basically, kind of depending on the other conditions. But yeah, you see going across Lake Michigan. Let's look at surface winds there. Yeah, look at that. They're just blowing straight across the entire length of the lake. Now that is the same. Being over the water for that much time is like going over an ocean. It's blowing straight up into Lake Superior. That would be our area that we're expecting some lake effect snow is around Lake Superior. But maybe not too much if we can't heat this up, or if we can't cool this down in the upper elevations. Looks like upper elevations were significantly cold and 500 hectopascals and 700. When you get to 850, it's looking a little bit too warm to make that lake effect snow. It might be a little bit more of a wet weather activities. Uh, Oh man, you see these beautiful. Do you see what I see in the wave shapes in the entire thing? Do you see how this looks like a traditional, like a Greek pottery piece that has a border of crashing waves as the pattern all around the globe? Look at the border of crashing waves all around the globe. It's all waves, and I'm not saying that I'm not being facetious or metaphoric. I'm not using any figure of speech. I mean, everything literally is waves waving together in different interference patterns. So, speaking of interference patterns, let's go ahead and look at what is interfering on our chemical level. Let's see where this sulfur dioxide is. And remember, this is a type of chemical pollution that comes from industrial, and it's an industrial pollutant, but it is also gas that you will see from volcanic gases. So we can kind of trace the gas plume from the Reykjanes eruption here into this little stream of wind, and looks to be turning back and going back towards Greenland. Now, I was a little concerned that it might try to whip itself into this area over the west of Ireland, but I don't think we're at too much risk of that. I think, honestly, mainland European industry is more polluter than this volcanic eruption right now. Let's take a look at the carbon dioxide, because that's what's really going to scare you. Yeah, this is all industrial pollutants. I don't know what else to tell you other than there's a lot of private jets and shipping and industry where you can see these things. Now, you do see it also in more jungle areas in Africa. But here, like, you can see, look at all the CO2 coming off of Manhattan right here. Look at all of the carbon dioxide we've got going on in New York. City life is not ideal for pollution. But down here in the South, look at the Southern Appalachians, mountains keeping us safe. We really couldn't survive if everyone was polluting the way that New York is. So it's really important to remember how fragile our ecosystem is and how much we need to take care of it. Because look at these industrialized areas, really, really heavy pollution. And it's only the winter time, so it will only get worse in the summer because the warmer air can hold more of this. It'll settle out sooner in the other stuff. Now, let's take a break from looking at our weather, because if I look at our chemical cycle a little more, let me just look at sea surface temperatures or something to calm down. Yeah, there we go. That's a calming, doesn't look inflamed at all. Actually, we are seeing kind of the, remember that the El Nino Southern Oscillation is the bouncing back and forth of elevated sea surface temperatures in the Southern Pacific Ocean. We are seeing the part where I guess I'd start over here. We're seeing the part where the bubble of heat has volleyed over to Papua New Guinea and the Philippines, and has kind of swirled back in on itself to rebound and go across the other side of the ocean. So now the SSTs are making their way, higher SSTs are making their way back over here. Let me show you the currents with that, because waves are going to be perpendicular to the currents. So this is where we've got that east to west transport, and then we go down about 10 degrees latitude, and we're getting some of that west to east transport. Now you can kind of see this already diving into this area. And remember, this is the West Chile rise where we saw some earthquake activity. I would be interested to see if we see an increase in earthquake activity as these higher sea surface temperatures come back this way. And we're getting a lot of this equatorial heat and moisture pulled off from, let's see the winds. Look at the winds blowing over the area, blowing it into the equator. But as we know, as we went up into the atmosphere, this was all of this area that just got cooled off. That is moisture that got heat that got pulled off in the form of moisture to just fire hose all over California. So it'll be interesting to see when we get this El Nino hot bubble volleyed back to us. You can look at those beautiful spirals off of the different texture, the different technically they're different textures if they're different temperatures, but that's not what I meant to say. I meant the two densities making those nice spirals together, because like going like this in the water. Can you tell I spent a lot of time in the pool by myself as a child? I was just really bored. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our solar activity over the past day, because man, oh man, we saw that 1-2 punch of those 2 M-class solar flares yesterday, and then today we saw 1, 2, 3, 4 solar flares. So this is around, this here where my mouse is right now is around the time that the Iceland eruption began, or the earthquakes began. Then the eruption started, and as we go through to the middle of the day, this M-class flare and radio blackout happened right around the time that the hot water line was ruptured. Now, again, I'm not saying they have anything to do with each other. I just think it's really interesting when all these things line up. They're not necessarily working together. It's just really cool to see that things happen at the same time. I don't know what the underlying factor would be. Then we saw again at about 3 o'clock Iceland time UTC, we saw another M flare, then another at 1900 hours, and then a longer one right at the tail end of the 8th into the beginning of the 9th, and kind of when we started this broadcast. Now, they were mostly from, you guessed it, region 3576. 3575 has mostly moved off of our view, which is why you can still even see it in the solar flares SDO image right here. This area that we can't even see on the surface, this 3575 is still going really hard. But most of our M-class flares have been coming from this area right here, which is 3576. And it's been developing itself into quite a weird little area. You see that they've even got it on their socials here on Space Weather Live, because that's the one that looks like the twirly gun drops. That's the one that looks like a atmospheric weather storm. So we've also got a type 2 radio emission coming from the sun as of today. That's coming off of one of those extended M-class flare events that was going. It's mostly affecting the Pacific right now, and it's moving into affecting Japan, China, Asia area, but right now it's all over. The radio blackout area is all over Australia and New Zealand. And remember, folks, that's not just radio, like listening to the radio in your car. It's anything that uses RF frequencies, like radio frequency. So, like, for example, if you've got a little, I don't even have it right now, but like a little remote control for your LED lights, that's using RF. If you've got a mouse that's got well, it doesn't, this is actually misleading. This uses IR for the little light at the bottom. But if you've got a wireless mouse that uses Bluetooth, that can be affected. And it's not really, or even your keyless entry for your car, your remote control keyed entry for your car, not some of the newfangled ones where you can start the car and stuff, but the ones that are just like literally just a radio remote control, just a battery that's part of a regular key. Those can get affected by radio blackouts if they have a 2 week of a battery. I know that I notice a radio blackout in my car battery keychain because I need to replace the battery, because even a few decibels of absorption can cut it can cut the signal enough that it doesn't work unless you're like right close to the car. So those are all some things to watch out for today. Let's take a look at our highlights, our headlines for solar activity today. Maximum was a 3.15 M-class flare. Proton flux doesn't look to be too elevated. We finally came out of the M-class territory just around the time the broadcast started. Let's go ahead and look at, not looking at too much. Let's see if the auroral activity looks better than yesterday. Still haven't seen many great aurora this year, but I will share them with y'all when we can. Oh yeah, the solar wind is really significantly decreased. So is the density. Like, what is that? That's quite weird. Quite odd there. Yeah. Interesting. Let's go ahead to look at the actual motion pictures. The motion pictures, the moving pictures. Let's look at our funny talkies. Let's look at our motion HMI. Motion magnetogram. The motion magnetogram. Oh, I'm sleepy. I got an early morning tomorrow, so I got to get to sleep early, so I already took my bedtime medicine. All right. And there we see that region looking really good. Right in front of us is nothing to sneeze at. But this is the one we're looking at, is this massive complex up here. This is beta gamma type sunspot region with a delta added into it. So that's like the little swirly place in the middle where they're fusing a bit. The delta region looks really funny, but the beta gamma is saying that there's like the north in front of the south pole in the southern hemisphere of the sun, when you'd expect the south in front of the north pole in the southern hemisphere. Like you'd see on 3571 there. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like in a few stacked images. Yeah. There's some flares going real hard. And the sun looks to be booking it. Beautiful. This looks so connected to so many other parts. I wonder what is happening under the surface that we can't see. Oh, look at this little guy spinning itself up into a fury, whipping itself up into a frenzy. And you see still some flares coming off of 3575 and a lot of little spin ups in the filaments. Easier to see them from the side. This looks like it's actively flaring right now. Let's see what this one has to say. Oh man, it's just sparkling. Sparkling. Looks like a fidget spinner. Do you guys see these 3 lobes, these 3 distinct nodes here? It looks like this. That's the shape I'm seeing arise out of it, is these lobe thingies, like that druidic triangle that's got the spirals at the corners. Really cool to see waves of this size on the sun. I just want to actually point out right here, going back and down and back and down, and then here back and down. And this is the shape I was talking about. Okay, that sucks. Okay, here. That's kind of what I was talking about, of this like Y shape, this epsilon or whatever. I can't quite put my finger on it, but you guys can see all of those waves, right? I'm not just like over here shouting into oblivion that everything's all waves. Okay, well, maybe I am, but let's go ahead and take a look at our today's planets. I'm getting sleepy. It's time for me to go bed. We are currently in a Jupiter day and a moon hour. Well, we were in a moon hour when I loaded this. We might be in a Saturn hour now. Yeah, we are in a Jupiter day and a Saturn hour. And we've got, let's see, this Venus just made her trine to Uranus, is moving out of that now. We've got a pretty strong square between the moon and Mercury in Aquarius and Jupiter in Taurus. So that's an interesting power move square, collapsing wave, the biggest it gets before it starts to break down, looking like a big swell to really pop the ground swell. If anything seems like the ground inflating with magma to its breaking point and then popping, it's this extended, really long transit of Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus, that ground swelling up and inflating and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and ready to burst, getting popped like a balloon by spiky little Mercury being a troublemaker and a very sharp balsamic moon. That moon is just about to be a new moon. We have a new moon by sign, but not by degree yet. So the moon is co-present with the sun, but not quite conjunct her yet, or him. She's not conjunct him yet. And then we've also got, we are now technically in a Aquarius stellium season, which I think that we're going to sustain pretty soon. We've got Pluto, Mercury, Moon, and Sun all in Aquarius. That means the tables have finally turned from Capricorn to Aquarius, having more planets. We were in a Cap stellium for, I don't know, like a month or two there. And now we are moving into this very powerful, very supercharged Aquarius season with an Aquarius stellium. With, again, that Saturn not doing nothing. A Saturn ruled sign making a good sextile to that Jupiter and Taurus. And let's see what else. Oh, we've got an exact sextile between the Sun and Uranus, and an exact sextile between Mars and Neptune. So to me, Mars and Neptune is like, well, maybe I can live with this. Maybe we could just live with constant eruptions. Maybe it'll be fine. But I have a feeling that's kind of a diluted way to act and think about it, of, yeah, we can just react to every single volcanic eruption instead of figuring out if the whole town and country needs to relocate or something. We're going to be getting Mars moving into Aquarius by next week, though. So that will be pretty interesting. Mars has done quite a bit. I think this is 2 eruptions within 1 2 volcanic eruptions within one Mars and Capricorn transit. So really cool stuff happening with the stars. I'm not going to get too deep into it today because I've already talked for so long. And that means that it's time to say so long pretty soon. So today I'm actually, instead of doing my positivity cards, going to be doing just a tarot reading. Let's just look at the tarot. If anybody wants to get me a new singing bowl ringer mallet instead of using my Palo Santo, because it doesn't really work that well as a singing bowl ringer, then be my guest. Okay. Got my labradorite on this one. Let's see, tarot cards. What do you have to say about today's events? What's your opinion on today's weather? Bottom of the deck says the Tower. I think I'm going to go ahead and pull that just as a guide. What are we up to? What are we in for? What is going on here? Okay. What are we up to? What are we in for? And what is going on here? What we are up to is the Three of Swords reversed, which I love because this was a great card for me when I went through. Actually, this is the card of the year for me, the year that Uranus ingressed into Taurus. So I think we are changing our wounds, healing our trauma, and turning these bad times into success and growth. So that's cool. Kind of like ripping the muscle to build it back up, exercise. What's going on? We have the Two of Pentacles reversed. So if you could see, this is the It's All Waves card of It's All Waves. You can see the little ship and the big ship in the background. I love looking at the little ship and the big ship because it always shows you, like, it shows you in proportion how the little wave feels just as inclined to the little ship as the big wave feels to the big ship. And also it could have something to do with little ships feeling the tide changing before the big ships. Also, this has to do with the material balance of dualities and opposites, and how we are always in a balancing act with our dualities and polarities. What's going on is we are using the balancing waveforms to heal. That's what this big tower is. And what are we doing is, oh man, King of Wands in reverse. Think we got a Page of Wands last week. King of Wands is in reverse. So masculine energy, fire energy, that thought, word, deed, divine spark, inspiration, fire, plasma is in the inward phase, in the inward feminine direction, internally. And all of that capped off by the devil upright, which again has a lot of fiery visuals on the card. Also, a lot of duality visuals on the card and being in balance with those dualities. The devil is out there and doing there's a lot of devious things that are happening in the world right now. But when we put it in perspective of needing to get hurt to grow and needing to see the wound in order to heal it, in order for the illness to present, like to get healed, it needs to present itself. I'm seeing the Tower and Devil upright sandwiching in these three cards in reverse, being like, yeah, we're gonna have to we are going to have to expose it very soon. And things are working in the direction towards doing that right now. So if you don't want to have your dark secrets exposed, don't have any. You know, that's that's the simple answer. Just don't have secrets if you don't want them to get out. But remember that we're also balancing our masculine and feminine energies, our internal and external urges, our nighttime and daytime urges. We're balancing those all right now. So stay safe, stay well, stay hopeful and faithful that all of the turmoil that is upcoming and ongoing is for the better and to help us. These are not new. What I'm getting right now is these are not new problems that are coming to light right now. Any problem coming to light right now has been there. So don't shoot the messenger. It is just been there for a long time, and they are just the person to point out that it's happening. And you can't get rid of the problem by shooting the messenger. That's what don't shoot the messenger means. It doesn't mean like, oh, don't destroy your computer because you don't like email. It's not that. It's yeah, you have to solve the problem to get the message to go away, not get rid of the messaging medium. So we're gonna have to need like dig deep and figure out what is actually behind the problems and see past the messaging medium. The messaging medium is just going to be how we notice these problems. That we need to see beyond the messaging medium. And the messaging medium usually is hardship and trauma and turmoil in our daily lives, or like actual literal earthquakes and volcanoes and tornadoes. And oh yeah, I forgot to say there were some tornadoes today, and tornado risks today associated with some wintertime storms in the United States. So keep your heads up, stay alert, trust that it'll all be for the better though. I love you guys very much. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in once again. And